Welcome to the ECR Retail Loss, Sell More and Lose Less podcast series. For online grocery, most retailers or most of the orders around the world are typically picked from the store. However, when the picker finds a gap on the shelf where the item has been ordered, there's a challenge. They need to quickly find an appropriate substitute, if indeed the customer has said that they would accept a substitute. And this was the topic and the challenge and the opportunity that we had as a theme for one of our recent meetings. And in this podcast, I'm joined by Professor Daniel Corsten, and we'll explore the discussion points that came up from the meeting, how to not mix up your fish food with your fish fingers, and the different approaches that retailers are taking to understanding what those preferences, what those substitutions might mean, but also preventing perhaps the risk of a substitute using advanced data analytics. It's a fascinating topic. It's a huge productivity challenge for retailers. Roughly, for a sort of typical order of, 15 or 20 items, maybe 25% of the time can be spent looking for substitutions. So it's a compelling topic, and in this podcast, there's some great insights from the good professor. We had our on-shelf availability group meeting, our working group meeting, which it was the 7th meeting. We've got a real good cohort, I think, of retailers mainly, and a few consumer goods producers. The focus of the meeting, and it's the second time we looked at it, was online substitutions. And what we really mean is, when the picker gets to the item that's been ordered from an online grocery order, they can't find the item. Where is it? What happens next? And could you prevent that? And so we had 3 speakers. We had an excellent retailer speak from America, one of the biggest grocers out there in America. We then had our friends West Monroe, who are excellent at sort of time and motion studies and help with productivity analysis. And then we had Federico from Everly, again, provide a perspective from his. And then we had contributions from each of the retailers. Tesco's and others were all on the call. So what were your sort of key takeaways? If you're thinking, the high level, what do you take away as a retailer as strategic things to do?
Well, thank you, Colin. Yeah, it was a great session. Absolutely. Look, to me, there were 3 themes. One was related to cost of substitutions. The second one was related to some solutions. And there we realized that apart from improving on-shelf availability, which is a no-brainer, personalization is a big thing that's happening. And then we had some more conceptual high-level thoughts towards the end. But, start out with the costs. You see, remember, Colin, last year we did the survey and we tried to find out what is the cost of a substitution. And we estimated, thanks to, the support of the group and their kind answering of the survey, that for about every dollar in margin that you can gain through substitution, retailers pay about $2.40, $2.50 in cost.
Yeah. Shocking.
And that shocked us, right? Didn't it?
Yeah.
Still shocking. Those numbers haven't budged. But what this year's session added to this was that West Monroe had a different way of measuring these kind of things. And we haven't really concluded whether they're completely overlapping, but listen to this. West Monroe said that it takes on average 26 minutes to pick a basket with about 25 items. So that in principle leaves us with, about 1 minute per SKU. But what was interesting is that they assume that a basket with 25 items has about 2 stockouts, which would be somewhere around the famous 8%, which apparently as an industry.
Who wrote that?
I have no idea, but real brilliant person probably, right? No, jokes aside, this was a past crime. And the interesting thing is that they said that those 2 items take about 20 minutes of the picking time, another 20% of the picking time, 5 minutes. So in other words, the picking productivity in store is largely determined by the out of stocks, because if out of those 25 minutes, 5 minutes is for stockouts, you can imagine if you could really improve this, how many more picks you could do per hour or whatever, and what that would mean for your picking efficiency.
Yeah, and that's why I guess we've heard about people putting on a sort of an extra picker that comes around and picks all the ones where they couldn't pick first time, and then we heard about a bit about the sort of the flashing light on the electronic shelf edge labels, potentially maybe speeding it up and negating the need for a sort of that second shift. I mean, we haven't reached any conclusions on that, but those were things that were certainly out there as improvement opportunities.
You see, that brings us to the next thing, and now it gets interesting because, okay, so now we have technology. In principle, we could have a technology and every shelf label that should blink. But what should it blink? What is the best substitute? Now, the interesting thing, and this is where we went back, Colin, and showed some of the survey results from last year. It turns out that most of the retailers, when they're asked for, provide a substitution because a product is there, a lot of them call if they can, which is, with all respect, a wonderful waste of time. But it's wonderful because the customer, if you can actually reach him, loves it. Or potentially, if he doesn't love it, at least he doesn't love it, which is also feedback. But it turns out that essentially, how do you find the other retailers when they don't call you? And when they give you a substitution, it's either random, because 50% of the time the picker provides something that they, from their gut instinct, believe is the right thing for you. Whoa, 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 whoa. And the third option is that they provide you something which most people do. Now, Colin, I know you probably don't feel like most people. You feel special. I don't feel like most people. I feel special, even though we're probably not the only ones who feel exactly that special. But what I want to say is what we really need is personalization. And that's why these electronic shelf labels may just direct the picker to the next generally accepted alternative, but not potentially your preferred ones. And here is where we had two interesting talks.
Yes.
One is by our platform provider, the retail platform Everly in Italy. And what they did is they developed an algorithm to come up with these, personalized substitutions. And they actually used a sort of a problem in their challenge in their business model to do this. And what's their challenge? Well, one of the things that we found out is that retailers don't like to necessarily share the valuable information with these platforms that pick in their stores. They may not share where is the location, but they may also not share inventories. They may also not allow them to go into the back room.
They may also be late and delayed.
Right. So in other words, these guys are actually picking with their eyes blindfolded, right? Because they don't really know where the stuff is. So what Everly did is they actually did the following. They asked the customers when they're worried, but through their forecasting, that when the picker arrives in the store that the product's not there. If that is the case, they ask him, just in case this happens, what will be your preferred substitute? So when the picker arrives and the product is there, they don't need that. But when the picker arrives and the product isn't there, they know exactly what to offer. So that's brilliant. And you see, Federico, he actually, reported some really great improvements. The net promoter score increased, churn reduced, and the customer lifetime value was clearly better. What was really interesting then is that, and this is sort of something that, where I'm, a little bit participated, Srikanth Jagapatula, the professor from NYU, with whom I supervise a PhD student, we actually developed an algorithm which we tested at Everly, and our algorithm, which is also personalized, does some of the work by, just looking at the basket composition of past baskets and looking at what did people buy when a certain product was out of stock. So we were able to simulate these results and improve these results. And it clearly shows that if you do this, in a situation, a platform like Everly, you can increase your sales by reducing your lost sales by about 1%. And I think that is the future with all the algorithms and the Gen AI and all these opportunities. Colin, we should be better at personalizing our substitution suggestions. We should be, shouldn't we?
Well, no, I think that you sound very optimistic, and I think that does sound like the right direction that we should be going to as an industry, and we have certainly got the power in the maths, and it is a very good and inspiring thought. I like that.
No, we should absolutely do that, and that brings us to some other ideas and solutions that we heard, and maybe we can come back to that at the end. It was really interesting. There was one thing that the retailer from the United States said, which first sounded really, really impressive, but it still, made me think a little bit. Remember what did the lady from the American supermarket say? Do you remember what she said? What
I
did she
can't remember the exact words, but the customer received a note that said, "Happy days, we've picked everything."
Well, what actually happened is the following. Totally right. What actually happened is the following. Everybody, whenever they had installed the practice that when somebody received a delivery with one substitute, they would say like, you have one substitute or two substitutes or three substitutes. But once in a while, somebody received a delivery without any note, without any news. And they were worried because they thought like how many were actually substituted? And then the retailer realized that they better write down that nothing was substituted. And they thought that this is, and there is apparently a fantastic reason to celebrate. Now, with a little bit of distance, and as much as I love that retailer, you know, the fact that they celebrate something that you would argue is what everybody should be expecting, and I was making that joke before, is like, imagine you have a factory and once in a while you have a car that actually drives off and you want to celebrate this. You know, I love what they do because it provides an opportunity for the retailers to engage. But I think as an industry, as retail, we should strive to get towards, you know, perfect baskets, perfect basket fulfillment. And not just, by the way, from the picker's perspective, but exactly from the customer's perspective. And I love first-time pick rate, by the way. But I think all of this is still totally internally centric. It is picker centric. It is SKU centric. And what I loved about this meeting is like people were so interested in how to become more customer centric, how to move from a SKU centric to a customer centric view, or from a picker centric view to a customer centric view. Because otherwise we're just turning in circles and we're creating internal measures that are just easy to compute, but that don't show that we're permanently frustrating this. And one more thing in my rant here.
I was going to say that what a soapbox we've got here.
So here's another something. You remember, you were listening into that one conference that we sometimes attend at Wharton and Harvard, where there was the thesis that we actually have first class and second class customers, and we treat our online customers as first class customers because we actually go out on our way. We spend 20% of the picking time finding something for them, and we treat them. They get a delivery, you know, and they get all these wonderful things. But 85% of the people are second class customers, and that's me going really shopping like in the old days. I love it. And
for the first class customers.
And I spend my time trying to find a substitute. I walk around, I talk to the people, the associates, where can I find this? And I spend all of that. And I think as an industry, we should become more customer centric and not just online centric, online customer, but offline customer centric. We should be able to provide eventually the same service to the offline customers as for the online customers. That should be our vision.
That's a great vision. Yeah, well, what a soapbox. That's fantastic. I mean, it all comes back, though, doesn't it, I suppose, to this discipline around inventory record accuracy, because that's the heart of what's going wrong here, at least a big part of it. Yes, some of it could be in the back room, some could be up arisers, but we talked about that session again where, you know, we found a whole load of stuff of inventories always in the back and it should be on the front. But so there's a lot more work to be done in terms of building that discipline around inventory management, I think, knowing where it is in the store and knowing that it's accurate. And that will be the platform to deliver this customer centric, I suppose, to substitutions. And there's first and second class customers. I like that. That's a very good point. But yeah, we did hear that presentation at Harvard a few years ago. Quite controversial and delivered with a lot of passion by the professor.
Actually, I don't think it was that controversial. Everybody felt this was right. There were very few people who said this was wrong. So it was provocative,
yes,
but I'm not sure it was controversial.
No, it was provocative, perhaps more, and it was delivered in a provocative way.
Yeah, totally, with lots of passion.
And I think it was linked to why am I paying more for my groceries to subsidise the first-class shoppers when I walk in? So I think that added a little spice to it. But and no,
next session's coming up right after the summer break in September, right?
Yeah, we're going to be looking at this relationship between self-checkout and on-shelf availability. There's a sort of sense that, you know, there's lots of missed scans that then lead to, items not being sold, apparently, that mess up the inventory files, and then in theory should lead to on-shelf. So we're looking to see whether retailers have explored that and what data there is. And
wait. I think you actually have a bit of a teaser on this, a little teaser in terms of wasn't there one question that we asked about whether our audience thought that this had an influence?
Yes, you're right. 71% was the number you.
Don't hold that back. This is the teaser for the next session. 71% of the participants of the last session confirmed that they believe that self-checkout screws up their balance on hand and their inventory records. Now that's big.
And therefore not only messes up the sales record, but messes up the inventory record. And that then leads to the problems where the picker can't find the item because they thought it was there. Boom, boom. So yeah, we have potentially a retailer that's going to speak to some of the solution or an intervention that you put in place around auto correction that tries to get to some of this, but we want to also prove the case. And so hopefully a few retailers can share their experience on that. And I know a few of them have been working on it. So that's why the 71% is there. So Daniel, thank you again very much for sharing your thoughts.
As always.
And getting on your soapbox. I love that.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for joining us. And thanks to all the ECR Retail Loss community for the sharing of their knowledge, their research and latest learnings that ensure that we become truly a global platform for learning. My name is Colin Peacock. This is the Sell More and Lose Less podcast. And if you liked it, please subscribe so you automatically get all future episodes. And also, if you think your colleagues and friends might also like it, please ask them to follow ECR Retail Loss on LinkedIn and tune in to our next podcasts. If you didn't like it, then let us know and we'll try and fix it. Either way, see you next time. Thank you again.